Yes, definitely. So I started my show last year in June, 2017, I think on June 6th or so. So almost a year. And I started the show because, like social media and technology transformed my personal career. I really wanted to help and share my story and to inspire other, like especially traditional educators to really learn the power of social media and to transform their own college like teaching or maybe even K-12 teaching experience. So that was my intention when I created the show, and to really show the power of social media to inspire other educators. But as I started running the show, I learned, I think I really learned from my experience that like getting started is so important. Like we can plan this, we can plan that, we can have our strategic plan, but like you really have to take action to test your ideas. Otherwise, ideas are just ideas on paper. You don't know if they are good or not. So I had this idea in my mind. I was like, okay, this show is going to be awesome. It's going to benefit traditional educators. Like I started running my show. I learned like based on the people who come to my show, very few like traditional educators actually check out my show for quite a few different reasons. I'm not blaming them, and I think they have their own teaching research, like whatever agenda. And I think this type of thing, this new age, even though it's not quite new, it's now being recognized at like higher institutions for something that is like creating an impact. I don't know. And I just think it's now valued. There's not much incentives for traditional educators or maybe not enough resources for them. But anyway, so I learned that. And I learned like people who come to my show are social media practitioners or even educators who come, they are not the traditional type of educators. They are more or less educators like myself, who see the power of social media, who are fascinated by this, and who want to learn more about it. So I think this whole journey really helps me understand my audience better and refine the content of my show better. Yes. And another thing I learned, is how important it is to create content on like a regular basis. I run my show on a weekly basis, that consistency, and it's very hard to stick to, but definitely worth it. I think through my show, I continue to grow my community, and I really love using my content to offer help to others and to create positive impacts. And I really like that. Yeah. And I didn't like, and even blogging, and I didn't start until May last year. So everything I started, just kind of recently. And you mentioned that we just relocated to Korea. So I think just being in this foreign country and really inspired me to somehow to become crazier, to become more risk taking, and to be more carefree. I don't know why, and because the environment somehow like doesn't make sense to me, and I was like, okay, like I don't know, it just like activated a different part of me, and a lot more like carefree, and I have quite a few like risk-taking behaviors that I don't see myself like starting a show if I were in the US. I don't know. Somehow this like big change in my life really activated a different part of me. Like maybe like this is the real me. I don't even know, but I'm really enjoying this. Lots of challenges, lots of tears last year, but I have also grown so much. I'm really thankful for being on this journey.
That's awesome. Now, of course, now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty now, because, of course, the the big I guess you could say announcement or whatever that
Hmm.
about many declared this, many went up in arms over Facebook talking about recent algorithm change, and that they were doing or whatever, and of course, many declared this Facebook apocalypse, Facebook zero, all this yada yada yada, and I want to know what on this, and do you actually believe this declaration of Facebook zero, or do you think it's just way overblown?
Oh, I think people are just like overreacting to this, and I really think not much has changed, frankly speaking. And I remember when I had Mark Schiffer on my show, I think in February, which is right after this Facebook thing happened, and people were asking him about this, the same question, I think, and his response was similar. Organic reach on Facebook has been decreasing like over the past several years. And I think he shared that like organic reach is like lower than 1%. I think that has been the trend. It has been already happening. So Facebook just verbalized this, and I don't know why. I just think people are overreacting to this, which has been here within the past several years. And also, I think, like all of us, we suffer from content overload. There's so much content, it's like way too much content, and we are way too much into each other's lives. And like we are bombarded with like ads and sponsored ad and this and that. So I think this change may really force us to go back to the root of social media, which is being social, community building. And when I was at San Diego for the Social Media Marketing World Conference, and Brian Fenzel, and he gave an excellent speech. He was talking about community building and being like authentic and relatable, and make yourself relatable, and by being authentic. So I think maybe this is the, like, I don't think anyone has an answer yet, but I think maybe this is the right direction for us to move forward to, being more like relatable, being more like humans, not just like using this and like schedule 10 posts and then forget about it, and just being more human. So I love that aspect of the change. And as for myself, and I notice like when I share like content that is purely like self promotion, such as like when I post things about, hey, my Facebook show content or whatever self promotional content, the engagement is very low. And when I ask questions, whatever like social media related questions or my personal struggles, the engagement, I feel like it's better than before. I don't know. And about on my personal like Facebook profile, and I feel like when I ask personal questions, the engagement seemed to be better than before. I don't know if it's because of the change or what, but that is just my personal observation.
That's awesome. And of course, too, you know, the same, I guess you can say the same has happened with YouTube in some ways, where they recently, declared that, if you don't have like, I don't remember what it was, if you don't have 1,000 subscribers or 4,000 watch times within a year or whatever, then you kind of monetize. And people
Yeah, I think
there,
that came last year. Yeah.
yeah, and some people were complaining about it as well. But it kind of shows like how basically where I'm starting to notice that probably the majority of them were building their business on renting land, and because they were seeing the the impact that would happen on them, with their channel, that they were complaining. And I guess that kind of showed that the importance of building your business or your content on your website and using social as a way to build community and
Oh,
trust.
absolutely.
Or
Oh,
uh,
100%, 100%. I think maybe this is the signal that we are going back to use social media as a way to build our community, as you mentioned, not doing so much self-promotion. Because like ever since I started running my show on Facebook, I can't tell you how many people came to me and told me, hey, I don't even, I'm not on Facebook anymore. It's just like too much, too annoying, and too this and that. Like, there's so many people. So I think maybe like it's a way for us to adjust. And also, as you mentioned, like we all learned as the social media marketers, like social media platforms, they come and go. You are rented space. You need to create your personal space, your personal like property, so to speak, to host like your followers, your community, your customers, an email list, and yeah, I think it is very important. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I remember a few days ago I did this like Twitter chat, and one of the questions was, where do you see Facebook in 5 years? And there were a few people in the audience saying that in 5 years, Facebook is not going to be relevant. So, and I
Wow.
was like, wow, that's quite an interesting perspective. But, like, yeah, MySpace, when MySpace was really popular, if someone made a comment, oh, MySpace was going to be irrelevant in a few years, nobody would believe that, right? So I think, like, going back to what you were talking about earlier, we just need to have our own, like, email list or whatever you want to do to nurture and cultivate your own community.
Okay, and then of course you mentioned about your show, you're being consistent weekly. Well, why do you think really that doing like live video weekly consistently is the best way to basically stand out from the crowd, especially with all these algorithm changes per se?
Uh, I do think consistency matters, but if you are creating content for the sake of creating content, I don't think consistency is going to get you anywhere. I think you really have to balance between quality and quantity. Like consistent matters only if you are producing good content. If you are just creating like crap, even on a regular basis, you still are not going to build a community. I think what's important, maybe the question is like we need to prioritize on producing quality content. I think that's is more important than maybe even consistency. I think when consistency is combined with good content that your audience enjoy consuming, I think maybe that's kind of the magic where the magic happens.
And of course too
At
now,
least based on from my personal experience. Yeah.